in our ACC insider here on the Hadid Mercer Rug Cleaning Hotline. It's my guy Marcus Mook Washington from MTC making the cut with Mook. What's going on, bud?
Hey, not much here on this rainy day up here, but hey, this great time of year. We're getting to that lower part of February. We're almost to March, where teams got to start looking at their positions in the conferences, and they got to start getting tournament ready, or at least ready enough to make a run to try to get into the tournament.
Yeah, and I know Hokies fans were hoping that they could go on a little bit of a run here towards the end of the season and get themselves into the NCAA tournament field, out of the bubble. But this loss to the Yellow Jackets last night really hurts that. Offensively, they played well. Mutz had 17, Basili 21. You got 11 from Padula and Couture, but it's just defensively, they couldn't stop the three-point shot. Georgia Tech shot 50% from behind the arc.
Yeah, and that was a little surprising. Georgia Tech in the ACC is one of the worst offensive teams out there, and their ability to shoot the three-pointer last night was a difference. But what disappointed me with Virginia Tech was the inability to adjust to it, because it seemed like when they start paying too much attention to it, then Georgia Tech gets to play to their strength and get downhill and get into the lane. But you just can't have a team like Georgia Tech shoot 12 for 24 from the three-point line, especially when it's a game that you need, and these games are important. And when we start getting to the tournament, they start looking at what they define as a bad loss. And you're right, Virginia Tech was in a must-win situation, and even if they do make a run at the end of the season and into the ACC tournament, that Georgia Tech loss could end up being the difference between them being chosen and someone else being chosen.
Yeah, I know. It's so frustrating, and that was a great point about bad losses, right? Because they have a bunch of good wins, against North Carolina when they were ranked, against UVA, defeated them at home while they were ranked, beat Duke. I mean, a bunch of good wins on the season, but, man, the bad losses are starting to pile up for the Hokies.
And that's the thing about the NCAA Tournament Committee. It's what are you going to get with the committee members? And just over the last few years, it just seems like bad losses hurt you more than good wins give you. Now, again, I don't know. I have not studied who's on the committee this year, but Virginia Tech's hope has to be that they're going to take a look and they're going to be true to their words. That is the full body of work. So you're going to look at those wins earlier in the year, and you're going to give them equal weight, and then you have to hope that your good wins, and Virginia Tech will have the opportunity, especially with the ACC tournament, to get more good wins, and they just have to hope that those good wins in the committee's eyes outweigh the losses that they certainly would like to go away, not only the Georgia Tech loss, but also being swept by Boston College.
Over to UVA and the Cavaliers, winners of 3 straight. And we were talking about this yesterday with Frank Maloney from Who's Talking. UVA's just got to hold serve here over the next few weeks with Notre Dame, Boston College, North Carolina. Clemson's going to be tough, but then you finish the season with Louisville. And this is a situation where you want to avoid the bad losses if the Who's are going to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Why do you think they struggled last night with Louisville, who only has 1 conference win so far this season?
The offense kind of went south. Probably over the last 4 games, Virginia's offense have had these little rocky points that have extended out. Against Duke, I think we kind of accepted it because that's Duke. And Duke's defense this year hasn't been all that great either. And I think that reared its ugly head last night. And also, Virginia players, when you're in college, you're also human. I never got the impression that no matter who was out there, that Virginia thought they were going to lose. Even when Louisville had that chance at the end of the top, they always felt like they were going to win. And I sort of think that they played that way. Unfortunately for them, when you're trying to get the top seed in the ACC tournament so you can say you're a regular season champion, you cannot let teams like that hang around, because what you said earlier, on paper, their last 5 games, they're going to be favored in all 5 of those games. Clemson is starting to slow down. They finally broke a 3-game losing streak. We're starting to see Tyson Hunter. His numbers are starting to get incredibly inefficient. So you're starting to wonder, has he tired out? Those are 5 winnable games for UVA. And when you compare them to Pitt's last 5 games, Pitt still has 3 road games. Virginia Tech is going to be tough going to Blacksburg. Pitt still has to go to Miami. And now they do have home dates. They should take care of Georgia Tech. You just never know what you're going to get with Syracuse. So UVA has that chance that if they take care of their business, Pitt on those last 5 games certainly have a tougher road to get to the ACC title than the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm wondering who would be your favorite heading into the ACC tournament. And what's interesting about the Cavaliers is, first off, they're going to have to shoot better from the free throw line. You can't shoot 56% and try to win a conference tournament. But the lineups, right? I mean, it feels like every other game, Shedrick's playing 20-plus minutes or Dunn's playing 20-plus minutes. Last night, it was pretty much a 6-man rotation with McNeely playing 27 off the bench. Dunn and Shedrick only 8 and 6 minutes. I think it's going to be interesting to watch how Tony Bennett does his rotations in the big games towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I do think with Shedrick, it is purely driven by matchups. And so I think we will continue to see that 8 minutes here and maybe 22 minutes there. I don't think it's a consistent. I think it's a matchup-driven thing, which, believe it or not, plays in the hands of Virginia. Because when you think about March and you're not playing your conference foes that you have this history with, that you know, that you study for months, and you have the 2 days to prepare, to have those options that they have with Dunn, who's defensively has gotten better and more of a factor over the last few games, and Shedrick, if you want to go big, Vanderplas being in the lineup if you want to go small, McNeely, who had a couple of nice drives last night, but it's always a threat from the three-point line. I think the flexibility of UVA will play in their parts. And this could just be a situation where head coach Tony Bennett is getting a feel for that. Can these players handle the fact that one night you get 8 minutes and 2 nights later when we have to play against a team with a big or I need a Shedrick to give me 15 to 20 minutes, can he handle that? I think we forget that these are college kids. Some players can handle that. Other players can't. And I think that Tony Bennett is starting to get a feel for it right now, which could pay dividends down the line.
Joined by Marcus Washington. Follow him on social media, MTC with Mook, making the cut with Mook, mtcwithmook.com if you want to read his work online. Have you heard rumors at all that Hubert Davis could be on the hot seat at the end of the season? Do you think right now is UNC a tournament team? Because I would say no.
Right now, we'll start with the first one. Last week, I had a little thing that I called the Mook Minute that I talked about with Hubert Davis and whether we're seeing the second version of Matt Doherty because Hubert Davis and how he has coached this team, we have seen flaws. One, they are way three-point dependent with a team that is not a three-point team, a shooting team. Those guys have to get so many things off script. Nothing seems to be in rhythm. They don't seem to leverage having one of the best big men in the country. Their board work has been so up and down this year. They've been out-rebounded by several teams that have no business out-rebounding them. The lack of development on the bench where truly you can only go 6 or 7 deep that you trust. And then after that, it's kind of, how do I feel today about playing Tyler Nichols or someone else off the bench? I don't want to say it's been a poor job because I still feel like he's in the first 15 minutes of his tenure there. Mm-hmm. But I do think that that run last year masked some of the things that we saw bubbling last year with the inability to manage that roster. And it took people's eyes away from it. But as we've come into this year, we're seeing those same things that at the beginning of last year that we've seen. Now, whether that puts him on the hot seat or not, I don't know if Carolina is willing to get rid of him after 2 or 3 years. They certainly got rid of Doherty, I believe, after 3 years, and then Doherty went to SMU. As far as whether North Carolina's a tournament team right now, I would say no. I think that North Carolina's resume has to be built, which means they need to finish out the season strong in the second game against Duke that's in Chapel Hill. They need to get that. And I'm going to say I think North Carolina needs to win 2 games in the ACC tournament. Depending on who those 2 games are against, they need to win 2 games in the tournament to really solidify themselves on being in that large. If not, there are resumes out there that's going to have more quad 1 wins than North Carolina because they're still stuck on 1. So right now that resume is not strong. So I do think they need to win out. Maybe they have another loss in the regular season that they didn't sustain, but then they need 2 wins in the ACC tournament for me to put them in as an at-large.
Mook, great stuff as always, man. I appreciate it. Follow him on social media, MTC with Mook. Thanks, man.